So a court just found that an ATF cease and desist letter halting the sale of parts and other things like 80%ers has no legal authority, and that a company, JSD Supply, can continue to sell 80%ers. So let's talk about this. But real quick before we jump into this video, if you think the ATF needs to be reined in, go ahead and hit the like button and subscribe. Also, I want to thank everybody who has subscribed to the channel recently. As many of you are aware, one of my short-term goals for this year was to reach 300,000 subscribers before my 3-year anniversary here on YouTube, which is in early July. We're about 2,000 subscribers away from reaching that goal, which is absolutely amazing. A lot of you have really helped me to try to reach that goal, and we're really close. So I just want to say again, thank you to everybody who has subscribed to the channel recently. And I also want to mention that if you're not currently subscribed, please consider subscribing to help me reach that goal. So like I said in the intro, in this video, I want to talk about a recent court ruling in regard to the ATF's attempt to once again arbitrarily change rules and shut down the sale of various items. Last month, the ATF attempted to shut down JSD Supply for selling 80%ers and other parts on their website. The ATF served JSD Supply a cease and desist letter, and as a result, JSD Supply temporarily shut down their website. One critical thing that came out of that cease and desist letter from the ATF is the fact that the ATF is now at the position that a company who sells 80%ers and other parts on its website without an FFL is violating the GCA. They also claim that it doesn't matter if a company sells the items in a single transaction or in multiple transactions. The ATF claims that if a company simply has all these items available for sale on their website, they are then selling firearms, and they're selling firearms as defined in the GCA. Now, the cease and desist letter comes on the heels of the ATF releasing their final rule on frames and receivers a couple months ago. Under the new rule, gun stores and FFL holders now will have to serialize 80%er kits that they have in their inventory. On top of that, they have the responsibility of running background checks on individuals who purchase these items after the rule goes into effect. This new rule by the ATF was not supposed to take effect until mid-August, but the ATF has decided to jump the gun and try to enforce a variation of their new rule against JSD Supply. In response to receiving the cease and desist letter, JSD Supply temporarily shut down their website, and then they filed a lawsuit against the ATF. Along with their complaint, they also filed for a temporary restraining order, or a TRO, and a motion for a preliminary injunction. The complaint filed by JSD Supply can be boiled down really to a basic but factual argument. There are a plethora of ATF determination that parts are not firearms and therefore are not regulated under the GCA. Also, there are various determinations by the ATF that 80%ers are not firearms, that 80%er kits are not firearms, and therefore are not regulated by the GCA either. However, the ATF has once again secretly changed their policies and determined that selling parts and 80%ers is a violation. And even if their position is that their new rule on frames and receivers changes all of this, well, their new rule doesn't go into effect until mid-August, so they should not be doing this at all. In conjunction with their complaint, JSD Supply also filed a motion for an emergency TRO and for a preliminary injunction. A TRO is an order by a court immediately prohibiting a threatened action, but is only a placeholder until a preliminary injunction hearing can take place. A preliminary injunction hearing, or a preliminary injunction, is an order prohibiting an action to preserve the status quo while the underlying court case is decided. Preliminary injunctions generally last until the end of a lawsuit. Well, in response to this lawsuit and the request for a preliminary injunction, the ATF then all of a sudden sent a new letter to JSD Supply, rescinding their cease and desist letter. With that new letter, the ATF essentially was trying to moot the lawsuit altogether and was trying to moot the preliminary injunction request that the company JSD Supply was seeking from the court. In response to this drastic change of position by the ATF, JSD Supply argued to the court that the court should still grant the preliminary injunction because there is no guarantee that after the case is thrown out or after the preliminary injunction is denied or anything like that, the ATF won't just go and enforce the rule against JSD Supply or other companies by simply saying, we're just kidding, we're still going to force against them and pretty much get what they want out of the court, but then after the fact, go do what they want. Also, JSD Supply argues the case is not mooted by the rescinding of the cease and desist letter, since they are also challenging the policy choices of the ATF and also the new rule against frames and receivers that will go into effect in August. Well, in response to all this, we now have an order from the court on all of these issues. The court denied JSD Supply's preliminary injunction, but in doing so, they also found that an ATF cease and desist letter has no independent legal authority. The court stated that, in short, the cease and desist letter does not have any legally operative effect on JSD, its rights, or its liabilities. Again, it creates no rights, it imposes no liabilities, nor does it impose any independent risk of criminal or civil liability beyond the general provisions of the GCA and associated regulations. The cease and desist letter did not constitute a final agency action. So the court here is denying the preliminary injunction in favor of JST Supply. They actually ruled in favor of the ATF, found that a preliminary injunction was not appropriate here in this situation when the cease and desist letter is pulled, or even with the existence of a cease and desist letter. But in doing so, the court is also claiming that the ATF cease and desist letter has no independent legal authority. This is interesting not just for this case, but other ATF actions as well. The ATF consistently sends out cease and desist letters claiming that the letters that they are sending out will have major ramifications if people decide not to comply with them. But the court here almost points to the fact that all of these letters that the ATF sends out are essentially toothless on their own. Now, the preliminary injunction was also denied because the court said the challenges against the ATF's actions were not yet ripe. So that's another thing they took into account. They said that these issues weren't ripe yet because of some of the procedural things that needed to happen as far as the new rule or actions by the ATF, or just some of the fact finding that needed to happen in this case. So that was another basis that they denied the preliminary injunction. So the court did not grant the preliminary injunction, but some interesting insights and language came out of that decision by the court. This case is still moving forward, but one good thing is that the ATF rescinding that cease and desist letter against JST Supply means that JST Supply is now back in business. I was able to talk with JST Supply and some of their employees and people at the NRA convention. They seem like really good people. So if you want to go check them out, check out their website. And also you can buy one of their t-shirts that I saw they have on their website. And I think that goes towards actually funding this lawsuit against the ATF. So consider that as well if you want to support their fight against the ATF. So you can see the tyrannical games that the ATF is playing. They're going after companies, threatening actions against them, shutting them down, and then when they get sued for engaging in unconstitutional conduct, they're rescinding their actions and telling the courts to simply ignore all these things that are happening and just pretty much, hey, it's all fake, not really going to happen. We're just going to pull our cease and desist letters. Just don't look over here, court. So pretty prototypical of the ATF, prototypical strategies, and this is really one of these reasons why we need the Supreme Court or higher courts to finally say that the ATF needs to stop engaging in these types of actions. Now, one thing I also wanted to mention in this video before it ends is I wanted to remind everyone in California that the deadline to purchase an 80%er without a background check is going to happen at the end of this month. Starting July 1st, the Firearms Precursor Law goes into effect in California. So if you're going to purchase an 80%er now and you don't want to have to deal with the Firearms Precursor Law that's going to go into effect, right now is your opportunity to do that. And once July 1st hits, pretty much this new law goes into effect and you're going to have to follow all those new rules. So if you guys have any questions, go ahead and comment down below and I'll try to answer the best of my ability. Also, if you like this video and like support the channel, one of the best ways to do that is to like, comment, and subscribe. All those things help to fuel the algorithm or fuel Al Gore's rhythm. It adds fuel to his jet and it signals to YouTube that you guys see value in these videos and in this type of 2A news. Again, I want to thank everybody who likes, comments, subscribes, who hits the notification bell, who shares these videos. You guys are directly impacting these videos, impacting this channel, helping me to reach and educate more people than I could ever do on my own. So again, thank you so much for all of your support. And also thank you to everybody who subscribed to the channel to help me reach my 300,000 subscriber goal. So as always, thank you all for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And don't forget, this is built by Armed Scholars, and this nation will be maintained by Armed Scholars.